Hello Sofa Squad, it's me, and we are going to be talking about another interview, the second interview. Now if you watched my previous analysis commentary on the one interview that the police chief John Walker did before this one, basically by the time I put that one out, everybody was like, what about the second one? What about the second one? And then I was like, what second one? Well, then I saw it. Now this one was with a reporter, a gentleman named Bayan Wang, and this one went in for the hard-hitting questions that other journalists are afraid to ask. I really felt like he did a really good job at capturing, that pushing, that prodding that a lot of us are like, look, just give us the answer. So I'm just going to go through the notes kind of in order as I saw them in the interview. Again, I will put a link down below to where you can find it, to where you can follow Mr. Wang to see some of his coverage on this case. And I'm just going to go through point by point the things that stuck out to me about the information that we learned in this. Now he asked the police chief, what is the morale of the community? And he's like, look, it's one of frustration. I get it. Everybody wants these kids to be found. And he's like, and you know what? That same feeling of frustration of wanting answers and wanting to solve it extends to, here on the police force. Now, right off the bat, he doesn't waste any time. He goes right in for, let's nail down a timeline. And so he's like, look, when exactly did the parents tell you that the kids went missing? Now, the timeline that he will offer us is he will say, look, per the adopted parents, the kids have been missing for about 15 to 20 minutes prior to calling the police. And he goes kind of over like what we've kind of been hearing. They realized they were missing. They search the house. They search the immediate area. They search outside. Trezell goes, riding around. They come back. They realize they need help. They call. Now he will give a firm 5:43 is when we were dispatched. And so he was like, yeah, it's just a few minutes before that. I think he said it took him like 6 minutes to get to the house. And some of that timeline will be important too with some of the comments that he made towards the end of the video that we'll get to here in a minute. So then he's like, yes, he addresses the whole thing. Any kind of missing persons case, missing children, especially whatever, we start from the inside out. So of course we're going to start at the home where they were seen last, at the adoptive parents. This is normal. Now he does confirm, yes, this whole situation, they went missing, were reported missing at least, let's say, on the 21st and the 22nd. Yes, they executed a search warrant on the home. Well, Biden's not going to leave it done there. He's like, now, look, I know you have to have probable cause to get a search warrant. So what was the probable cause for this one? We're just curious. When he asked that question, I was like, okay, this one's for real. This one's going in for the jugular. He's not satisfied with some, little whatever answers. And the police chief will say, look, when small children are involved, we have a right to go into the home, number one, to make sure they're not in there. You have to make sure that everything is, kosher. So then the interviewer, the journalist, goes deeper into, well, what kind of items did you take on that first visit? And he does say, he's like, I'm not going to get into the specifics, mostly basic stuff, mostly, technology, phones, iPads, that type thing. And he will confirm that, the phones have been returned to them. So I just feel like he's giving more information here than the previous interview that he's done, which I'm really appreciative because it's painting a picture. Now he also confirms that, the van was towed. And then he confirms, we used luminol on it. And all this, I'm just like, okay, I get they have to mark all this out. But like one thing that we don't hear him saying, obviously he's not going to say, I think they did it. They're not going to say that. But literally all these actions that they're taking, I'm like, do they do this for everyone that has a missing kids report right away? Because this just seems like immediately like, we don't think something's jiving here. We're searching this little zone here and nothing's really leaving from that zone, if that makes sense, meaning their interest lies there. Doing all that with the luminol, with this and that, digging the backyard up, come on. Then when they start talking about the dogs, the scent dogs that were used, that's where I was like, oh, now we can definitely read between the lines here. So, the journalist goes, into the whole aspect of the dogs, coming out, all that type of stuff. And so the police chief will confirm, we didn't get a hit from the dogs. And going further, he's like, the dogs could not pick up a scent of the kids outside of the home. So meaning, according to the dogs, those kids never, wandered away from that house. They weren't outside the house. Now he says that doesn't mean anything. Of course there can be all this other stuff that factors in, so that's not this hands down like, oh my gosh, here's, the smoking gun. But it's also Very interesting. Now, he also says they brought cadaver dogs in as well, and that the cadaver dogs didn't find anything, as we very well know by now. Now, he confirms, yeah, you know what? Law enforcement's been in that house, like, I think 4 more times since the first day they went. Yes, they've taken more items out. No, he's not going to tell us. I didn't expect him to. Moving along. Now, he also said, you know what? Yeah, the backyard has been completely excavated by the FBI. And I'm like, that's pretty intriguing. And basically he was like, you know what, there was some like piles of dirt, or like a mound of dirt or whatever, and he's like, we just had to be sure that something we weren't going to find back there wasn't going to lead us to the boys. And the journalist is like, do you mean find the boys? And he's like, oh, yeah, or that. Now, another big thing, I mean, this is huge to me, is the Mr. Wang is like, look, I know initially you talked to neighbors and stuff like that, and at first it was like nobody's ever even seen these kids. And the police chief is like, yes, you know what, but we also talked to neighbors that have confirmed that they knew kids were living there. But there is a but. He says no one has positively ID'd any of the kids. So basically what he's saying is, yeah, you know what, there's some neighbors that are like, kids? What kids? And other neighbors are like, no, we knew there was kids living there, but I can't tell you which one's which. You know what I mean? Like, we can't tell you who's who. So, again, very intriguing. Another huge thing for me was, and this is a major thing, when was the last time someone positively 100% ID'd these children? And he's like, December 21st, the parents. And again, the journalist, Mr. Wang, he is really good at how he frames his questions, how he goes a little deeper. He's very respectful in how he does this and very articulate. He is really, really good. I really liked his interview style and all that. Anyways, so he digs a little bit deeper and he's like, okay, well, that's nice and dandy, but how about someone besides the adoptive parents? Well, then, the police chief's like, okay, well, yes, actually, we do have Bakersfield, the grandmother. Now, another thing, too, is the police chief is not going to give any dates, and he says because of speculation and rumors, and people will say, well, this happened that date, and they saw him here, so da-da-da-da-da. I get it. So he says the grandmother saw him. Well, to me, I'm like, no, we need to speak to the damn manager, okay? Not the related manager of the situation. We need the damn manager. Coupons are expired. We need something. So again, he says, yes, there is someone in Bakersfield that is not the family that saw the children. Of course, he's not going to say when, where, how, whatever. So at least we have that. But again, this is scary, okay, that it's this cumbersome to be like, when was the last time someone saw the kids? I mean, literally, that's all we want to know. And it's literally like, well, let me think. Was it last week? No, that doesn't count. Well, no, no, that doesn't count. I mean, it's just like, really? Now, then Mr. Wang, he goes into this whole thing about asking, are there suspects? Are there this? So, again, his choice of wording, he's very good at it. The police chief says, there are no suspects. And then he's like, well, what about persons of interest? And he says, yes. And then he goes even further. Could you say person or persons? And he won't do that. We all know where that's going. It's like, do you think the APs did it? So he's not going to confirm, how many or whatever, whoever the person of interest is or persons. There have been no arrests made, anything like that. Now, he also says that the parents, the adoptive parents, they've continued to be cooperative. They've come to the station 3 times to answer questions and things of that nature. I would give money. Give good damn money to see what those interviews are like, because this is y'all sofa sidebar. This is me speculating. This is all this is. Imagine when they're in those interviews, if they have that same vibe of like, yes, well, at 3:03 p.m. on this day, we went and did this. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like, we have memorized the story and we're sticking to it. Now, he also goes down one that's just like, well, thank God someone's asking this. And he's like, how many damn kids do these people have? I mean, we can't figure it out here. So he breaks down the amount of children. And he says, look, so Orrin and Orson, they were adopted. They had 2 biological children and 2 foster children. Now, when asked, okay, so where are the kids? Like, what's going on with them? And he says straight up, they're in foster care. And he says, you know what, they're going to be there until we figure out what happened to the boys. Now, again, I don't know how all this stuff works. Obviously, I'm just sitting here on the sofa. But that tells me, so clearly, if they felt like for sure that they had been cleared, you know what I mean? So this says that, they're still, we don't want you to have the kids back yet. Now, about the surveillance footage. Yes, he says, my God, I know about the surveillance footage from the surrounding homes. He says S plural. So I want to know if there's other surveillance. I feel like there is. I feel like there is, and it's going to corroborate or something. So I would love to know if there's more surveillance and what it shows. Now, he said he gets briefed on, that every day and whatever. And so then the journalist, he just goes right in and he's like, you want to comment on the fact that only 4 kids were seen on the surveillance footage? And I was like, damn. I mean, Lord mercy. You gotta, give us a little space here. Let us get ready for questions like that. And so he's like, nice try, but I'm not gonna say anything about that. Now, when he starts kind of talking, a little bit grim, like, look, do you think the boys are, no longer with us? You know what? He's like, I want to remain optimistic. And he's like, we have to. So then Mr. Wang is like, okay, but you also said foul play. And the chief of police is like, well, look, foul play doesn't necessarily mean that they're no longer here. So that was a very interesting choice of words. So, he doesn't think that they're, past, but he thinks that something shady went down. And in that whole little thing that he's talking about, he's like, look, the timeline that we got from the parents, he's like, from when they were realized they were missing to phone calls being made, the police arriving and all that, he's like, I mean, how far could they have really gone? Now, then Mr. Wong goes in for more. He's like, do you think the kids were over in the backyard? Do you question that? And he's like, we have to question that. We have to question everything. Then he's like, okay, well, look, do y'all have any leads, like, in the way of, kidnapping? And he's like, no, you know what? And he goes into kind of, semantics about, what kidnapping means and yada, yada, yada. And he's like, look, you know what? Nobody's come forward asking for a ransom, and there's $100,000 reward that ain't nobody trying to get. Now, to me, I do think that, where I'm like, that's a lot of money. Okay, you're going to talk about people cracking at a certain point. So, yeah, and if somebody kidnapped him, I mean, okay. You know what I mean? It's just that whole part is very suspect. Then he goes back into it. Could the kids have been trafficked? And he's like, yeah. Anything's a possibility. Now, he kind of rounds out and he's like, look, have the parents been asked not to leave California? That was an excellent question. And he's like, no, we haven't asked, but I don't know if the other agencies have. And he's like, we've just told them, we need to be able to speak to you. And they've made themselves available so far. So, those are the main highlights that stuck out to me. So let's sofa sidebar this. This is the vibe that I'm getting, that I feel like he's serving me. I think that they are looking at all possibilities, like he said, and remaining open. Now, at the time of this recording, there are authorities there gathering more information or something like that. I'll probably have to do another video on that when I look into it. But regardless, I just feel like this. I just feel like, interesting how the investigation just kind of keeps the questionings being around what happened, the timeline, the house, all that. And he does say at one point, look, we start, gathering evidence. We build a mountain of evidence. And if that leads to over here, we go there, over there. Notice how it's not really, moving too far away from, how did these boys disappear into thin air out of this backyard and leave no scent? So, there's that. I loved this interview. It was so much more informative. I thought we learned some interesting things from the last one, but from this one, I'm like, yeah. Again, am I sitting here like, oh yeah, hands down, they know the parents did it? No. This is what I think. I think that they realize and probably have information that something sinister went on. I have a feeling that those boys are not, past. I think that they're somewhere on this earth. And I think that that's what the cops probably think too. Now, again, that's my sofa opinion. Y'all know it, y'all know what opinions are. So, that's just kind of what I think. So, we'll have to see now. Again, whether the parents have something to do with that or somebody else, we don't know. But, just like he's saying, he's like, hello, the kids didn't even seem to have been outside the home. So, according to the dogs, but that could be wrong. Anyways, I could go on and on about it. So, I want to hear your opinions. What do you think? We're going to stay tuned and keep watching this. It just keeps unfolding. There's links down below to the interview, so you can check it out. Again, hopefully we're all wrong and these boys come safe and sound back to wherever they're supposed to go to. Hopefully nothing sinister, horrifying, or whatever has happened. And hopefully truth and justice and hope will prevail. Thank you to all the viewers, the subscribers, the Patreons, the channel members for making this possible. And thank you to everybody out there on the ground searching and helping to find these boys and bring them home. I really appreciate you watching, and we'll talk to you soon.